Professor,
right? Yes,
can you record the session, please?
yes,
Thank you.
it's being recorded. So now I am in backend server. The first step is npm init -y. Good, npm install. I probably need Express. I need Morgan, and I need some database. So I'm gonna have Mongoose. The backend, the front end, and the front end. I'm keeping 4 terminals, one to run the application and one to add dependencies. So from here, I'm going to install as well Nodman as a development dependency. Let me create a file app.js. Let me open VS Code. I'm going to open VS Code using displaying both applications. Yeah, and finally, I'm going to run this server. So edit my package JSON. I'm going to create a script called start, which is going to run Node1 for app.js. Right, let's start building the app. So import Express from Express. Let's create an app. Let me create, let me use the dependency that I have here, which are Morgan and Mongoose. Let me use Morgan. Let me remember to parse any JSON. So let's import JSON middleware. Sounds good. Let's connect to the database. After I create the app or before the app, I'm going to await mongoose.connect. And we're going to connect to MongoDB protocol on to 7001 on port 27017. I'm going to call the database to do app. Now, once this is done, let's confirm that. It's just like good to have. Maybe try catch is nice here, just to make sure that whatever we're doing is covered. So console log connected to MongoDB to app. Let's add the route. All. That's going to be a fallout route. Just going to throw an error. Let me add an error handler. The error handler has 4 parameters, starting with the error as first one. And I'm just going to send a response dot maybe status code of error status code dot JSON, and here we're gonna send success false and the error or data with the error object dot message. And finally, let's listen, report, and display message that we are successfully connected. I'm gonna run the app. So front-end, back-end, okay. So to run the app, I'm going to run npm run start. Okay. So I have a problem that cannot use import statement outside of a module. So let's convert the app to module. Now I cannot read properties of undefined. I'm going to show you the error so you could work with me. So currently I'm just spinning up a web server, but I'm still, so I had connected to MongoDB successfully. And at some point cannot read the properties of undefined reading headers. That's going to be app line 9. So basically Morgan is causing some issues for me. Make sure I didn't misspell Morgan. Morgan sounds good.
App.use, maybe.
Oh, I just missed that. App.use, thank you. Yeah, my server is up and running. That's good. I'm gonna keep an eye on the terminal to see if we're making any mistakes. Now it's time to define our models, then routers, then controllers, and then we test. Let's do that. So I'm gonna start with the models. Models supposed to be a folder inside the backend. Good. I'm gonna create a user model, users model, and another to-dos model. I'll start with the user. And probably I could structure from here, schema and model. Let's create schema. The schema would be probably ID, of course, full name, which is string. I need an email, another string, and I need a password, another string. It's enough for user. And then I'm going to export default model that says user on the schema. Right, that sounds like a decent schema. Let's do the to-dos. I'm going to call it to-do, the collection name. And in here, probably we need the user ID on top of the to-do ID, and that would be mongoose. That would be mongoose.types.object ID. And I need the title of the to-do. I need probably the description of the to-do. I don't know. We could also add completed as a Boolean. I'm going to add a timestamp automatically by passing here timestamps true. So I know exactly when the to-do was added or updated. Collection name is to-do. I think our models look okay. Let's create a folder called routers. I will have two routers, the user's router. I don't know, it's created here. Where is routers? Okay. And I need the to-do's router. Start with the user. I need 2 routes. Probably you need more if you'd like to control the profile, but for now, I'm just gonna sign up and sign in, the basic stuff. So const express from, not const express, import express from express. And then I need the router also. Okay, so I just gonna destructure the router. Let's create a router instance. Good. Now I'm gonna use it to have 2 post requests. Sign in and sign up, both of them should be post. We never send the data in the URL with the GET request. So post to sign in and another post to sign up. Maybe login is better, but I'm gonna maintain the sign for some reason. Let's export default our router. Okay, it sounds like a decent router. Let's create another router for to-dos. And for the to-do, I'm gonna add a new to-do. I'm going to get all to-dos. I'm going to get a single to-do, probably. Yeah, we can do that. I'm going to update the to-do and change the completed true to false and possibly the text as well. And I'm going to delete the to-do by ID. So basically the full range of verbs that we need. Now we have written the router. It's time to look at the controllers. So in here, I'm going to a folder called controllers. And I'm going to need to users controller and router and to-dos controller. We can start with the user. I need 2 methods here, the export function or async function. I'm going to call it sign in. This every single request handler that I'm going to define is going to receive request response and next. And I'm going to maintain the habit of adding try catch everywhere. By calling next with the error. That's kind of going to be the standard for me. Up. Let me just give this guy the template so I could use it later. So sign in and sign up. We start with the sign up. And the sign up is going to receive, it's going to be a request that looks like this. So let's create 2 test files. Test users.http. And in here, I'm going to send a post request to my server with sign in and another one for sign up. When I sign up, I'm going to pass a JSON. So let me pass a JSON here with an object that has the user details. The user details can be found from the model, which is an object that has these 3 properties. Okay. Full name, email, and password. So the full name would be my name. Email would be, and the password. When I log in, I'm going to send the email and the password. Also add a JSON. So content type. with an object that has the email and password. That's our test file. So we're always receiving in the body an object with the data in both requests. Now I remember that I parsed the JSON body with the middleware JSON. So I know that the req body should have the data for me. Let's go to the controller and complete the code. So const new user is going to be select.body. Now what I need to do before I sign up is to hash the password. We never save the password as a plain. In order to hash the password, I need a dependency called, what was the dependency that we talked about for hashing passwords? Anybody?
Bcrypt.
Bcrypt. Okay. And I would need at some point after when I log in to sign JSON Web Token. So I'm going to create bcrypt and JSON Web Token. Sometimes you need some sort of secret like connection strings and other stuff, and you need to keep them like in a global place, and we can use .env for that purpose. So let's also install .env. Now I'm going to use the browser to find out how to use .env. So .env will allow me to have some global variables. That's good. We create a file with .env extension, and then we save the data like this. That sounds easy. So in my root folder, I'm going to create a file called .env, and I'm gonna paste DB connection, and I'm going to have some secret key as well to hash basically my token. My DB connection would be this string that I don't want to keep in this place, and secret key. So two global variables I'm going to use in my application. And next, in order to use it, we need to import .env and then call .env.config. That's for ES6 syntax. So I'm going to, in my app, I'm going to import .env and then call .env.config. And they tell me after that that in order to use any variable, you can access it through process.env. So instead of connecting to the string, I can connect to process.env with db connection. And I see here that my server is still connected successfully, so that's a good sign. I mean, if there was any error, I would see an error message, but since this console log was printed, then I don't have any error. So we used .env. Now let's see how we use bcrypt. Bcrypt, I already downloaded bcrypt. It's going to help me hash something. So I see that hash requires callback function. So I'm pretty sure there is a version that is help me with promises. Here it is, because it has .then. So that's how we hash something. Instead of .then, I'm going to wait. So let's use that in our user controller. So new user, that's okay. How about we get the password from the new user? And I'm gonna call it plain password. Okay. Now let's start processing. I'm gonna create a hash password, hashed password. The hashed password would be wait for a method that's going to receive a plain password and then salt rounds. I'm gonna pass 10 as salt rounds. Now that I have a hashed password, probably I'm ready to insert the user. So I need the model. So I'm gonna need the user's model. The import require.js. I don't forget that. VS Code is trying to do its best, but it requires some help. .create, and I'm going to create a new object. Thread everything, and then replace the password with the hashed password. So I'm gonna replace the password with the hashed password. Now also this guy requires a wait, and I'm going to save the result and send at some point response.json. I'm going to always send success true and data as a standard response. That will help me a lot when I parse the response at the front end. And here I'm going to send the result back. So that should be good enough for the sign up. You just need to hash the password and save the user in the database. I'm going through the backend a little bit fast, maybe a little slow for some of you, but if at any time you have questions, let me know. Let's work on the logic for the sign in. For the sign in, I'm going to have received two things from the body, which is the full name, which is
the sign up function will not return the JWT.
Yeah, I'm not going to return the JWT in the sign up, which is how I choose to do things. But feel free to sign a token and send it after you sign up. That would be fine.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason I'm doing that I want to write the logic for persisting the token and stuff in the login screen of my front end.
Okay.
But I could like do that in sign in and sign up as a service. I'm just gonna save time and do it once instead of twice. But feel free to whatever logic we add to sign in to add it to the sign up as well. And that's recommended because personally, I prefer when I sign up, let's sign up, I find myself in. I really hate that when I sign up, people tell me, hey, now sign in. Like, are you kidding me? Especially if I'm not requiring the user to verify the email. And here I'm not doing that. So feel free to make changes. Okay, so when I try to log in, first thing is I need to find if this email exists. If it exists, I'm gonna compare the passwords. Okay, let's try to find the user. So I'm gonna use the user model to find one user that has the email. Now, if I have user, then all is good. Otherwise, I'm gonna call next with a new error, user not found. Now, if I do have a user, it's time to check the password. And in order to check the password, I need the documentation. They tell me you can call compare, and that will give you back true or false. That's good. So the result of the comparison is true and false. So I'm going to wait and save the result inside match. The plain password is what the user is sending me from the body. The hashed password is what I retrieved from the user. And match would be true and false. So again, I can say if match and else. If I didn't match, then I'm gonna throw an error saying that wrong password. If I do match, then everything is fine. And it's time to sign a token with some details and send them back to the client. So it's time to look at the API for JSON Web Token. To sign a token, I need some key, and then I'm gonna call sign. And obviously sign is synchronous. And to sign a token, all you need to do is to pass the plain object and then a private key. And everything else, oh, there is also an asynchronous version. Okay, I'm gonna use the asynchronous version then. Wait, const JWT. Here I'm gonna pass an object. I'm gonna pass a private key. I'm not so keen to specify the things. And error, I'm not concerned. I have try catch. So basically, I'm gonna receive the token back, which is the WT. Let's call it token. So I can I don't think there is a promise version though. I see that it has, if I pass a callback function, then, so the asynchronous way is not promisified. It's simply just passing a callback function. Since I'm not gonna put a callback function, it's going to be synchronous. So I don't need to wait here. All right, then I'm ready now to complete this, which remind me that I didn't import bcrypt or JWT. So import bcrypt from bcrypt and import JWT. I'm not sure if this is correct. Token. Let's see how we could import the library. Well, with require, you can choose any name. So I'm not sure if we can do the same thing with JWT. Test will reveal if we can do that. If it was a default export, then I can change its name. If not, then I would make changes. So jwt.sign, the token would be my user, except for the password. I'm not going to send the password back. Or just send an empty string. That will be my token. So my token will have full name and ID and email, but not the password because I replaced the password. Private key, we need to import that. So it's a process.env dot secret key. Sounds good. So now that I created a JSON Web Token, probably it's time to send the response back. So I'm going to send the response to JSON, name signature, success is true, and data would be the JWT token. I think we could test. I see my server is still up and running. Let's sign up. Route not found. I did not hook the route at all in my app.js. So let's hook it up. If somebody went to users, /login/sign in/up, I'm going to use the user's router, which did not auto import. So I'm going to make sure that it is imported. It's inside the routers folder, users router. Since I'm here, .js. Since I'm here, I'm remember going that I need at some point the to-dos router as well. So I'm going to import that as well. My server does have a problem about naming conventions. Can't find module to-dos router. So close space, to-dos router, save. All right, now I have a problem with router.update. Yeah, let's comment that out then. And remember that our router is still missing the controller names. So here I'm going to say sign in the user's controller and sign up on the user's controller. Also missing .js. My server is up and running good. Let's test. So my request would be /users /sign in and /users /sign up. Let's sign up first. Yep, I successfully added the user. I hashed the password as well, and I have an ID. Now let's sign in with the same credentials. Data or hash arguments required. So I have an error. Users controller. Hash arguments required. I think it's bcrypt compare. I think the issue is compare. To identify that it is compare, I'm going to make sure I have a user here. And then see if what's the issue in here.
Professor, I think
Yes.
it should be wait. A wait keyword is missing.
Oh, I forget to wait. Right. So basically, I will get undefined and I will immediately know that it was a wait. Good, thank you. Let's test the user sign in. Yep, I did get success through with the JSON Web Token. Now that my sign in and sign up is working fine, we will do the same things for to-dos controller. So I'm going to be a little bit faster when I code these guys. The only step that I'm going to spend some time on is to protect these routes, which is coming after that. So let's create the to-dos functions. So add to-do. We need get to-dos. We need get to-do by ID. We need update to-do by ID. I mean, you don't need to name them this way. I just delete to-do by ID. I think these are the ones. Okay. To add to-do, I'm going to receive a to-do in the request body. So const new to-do is, you don't need to do that. I'm just doing that for clarity when I read the code later. Next, I'm going to use the to-dos model. So to-dos model. I'm going to remember to wait. I'm going to have the result. Dot create, and I'm simply going to pass the new to-do in here. Then response.json, success true, and data is the result. Okay, get all to-dos. I'm going to use here find. Now, I still have a problem that I didn't talk about, which is something that we need to add. So when I add to do, I need to add a to do that belongs to a user who's already logged in. When I want to get all the to-dos, I want to make sure that the to-do that the user that's trying to get the to-dos, I get him his to-dos. I never get him some other user to-dos. When somebody is trying to read a to-do by ID, I need to make sure that he is the owner of this to-do. Same for update and save for delete. I need to check if this guy is the one that created, he's the owner of the to-do. So how do I get the owner of to-do here? Now, once the user logged in, we have their ID in the token, and they are supposed to send me the token from the front end. So all I need to do is to parse token that arrives from the request headers and hand it to every single controller. So all I read and add and get or the update is the to-do that belongs to the user. If it doesn't belong to the user, then I should not let the user handle it. So before I am able to complete all these controllers, we need to work on some sort of middleware that's going to parse the JSON web token. So I'm going to create here middleware. I'm going to call it check token. Middleware is always a function that has request, response, and next. And after I complete this code, I need to hook it up to the route. So I'm going to do that right now. So I do this. For this, I'm going to protect all these routes with check token. With .js, that sounds good to me. All right, let's see what can we do with check token. Obviously, I need to verify the token that I receive from the header. Before I start, it's always a good practice to remember try catch. Okay. Now I need to read the token. So token is going to be request.headers. I'm going to send the token inside a header called authorization. So I'm going to read that. If token, then all is fine. Otherwise, I'm going to throw an error. Token is not found. Now, if I do have a token, then I need to parse and verify if this token is really signed by my server. How can I do that? We go back to JSON Web Token, and we find a method called verify. Here it is. And verify will give me back the decoded version. That sounds good to me. So const decoded token is JWT, which I need to import. And then token, which is basically what I did read from the headers. Then I need to pass my secret, and my secret, if you remember, it's process.env dot something. I'm not gonna do it multiple times. Let me open my DNV file and copy the string. Oops. Here. Now we need to verify if decoded token is correct. So if decoded token else. Probably instead of checking the truth and then checking for the wrong is like really old-fashioned. Maybe it's good always to say, if not token, then throw an error, then continue with your logic. I tend to prefer the second approach, but for some reason I already typed this. I don't want to retype it again. So if next, new error, token invalid token. If my decoded token is all good, now we're probably ready to pass the request along. But after I attach the token to something in the request. So I'm going to create on the request object a property called token and pass the data to it. And then I'm going to call next. So I pass it to my controller. Now that I have inside my controller the user ID inside the rec.token, I can probably finish up my to-dos controller correctly. So before I add to-do, I need to add user ID to the collection. So I'm gonna spread the new to-do and then add the user ID from rec.token._ID. Same when I'm trying to find, I need to find the to-dos that belong to this user. Same when I'm trying to get one to-do by ID. Result, sounds good. I need something similar. Let me get the to-do ID from the params. And now my query would be, hey, find me this to-do ID only if it belongs to this user. So I verify that this user is the owner of this to-do that is trying to access. When I find it, find one, then I'm gonna send it back in the data. Sounds good. Update to-do by, I'm gonna leave it till the end. Delete is easier. So I need to do ID. Hey, is it delete one? Yeah, I think so. So delete one, only delete to do if I find the to do and the user is the owner of the to do. Then I send the results out. Now to updates. Also to update the to do, I want to verify that the to do exists and the user is the owner. Now we come to the update part. And obviously I want to patch somehow. So set. That reminds me that my router has an update here, which is weird. So let's call it patch. Okay. I was like, I used patch word, but I never used the verb patch before. So what I need to set is the okay, how about we send back the title and I'm gonna update the title and description and the completed, all three of them. So set title const the body. I need to destructure here title, description, and completed. All right, So I'm gonna set title to title, description to description, and completed to completed. And I leave the rest as is. I need to leave the time as is. I need to leave the user ID as is. I'm not gonna change this. And yeah, I send the results out. Sounds like good. So let's test. So I'm gonna create a file called users or test, sorry, test to-dos, HTTP. So we start with host probably, localhost 3000/to-dos. I'm gonna send content type JSON, and let's send a to-do object. User ID is going to be retrieved from the token. I'm gonna only send the title, description, and completed. So maybe I don't send completed, maybe I do. Let's send it as false. So probably we can modify the schema and say that this completed is from type Boolean and the default value is false in case it wasn't passed. Okay, so the title is Walk with Theo. Description 3 times per day. Okay, that's for the first request. Let's get all the to-dos. Okay, sounds good. Get a single to-do. Patch, I guess we had the word patch also for certain to-do, and I'm gonna pass a body to it. And finally, we have delete to-do. Oops, with an ID. Okay, before I can do any of these, I'm gonna receive immediately an error, and you will see that when I try to post the to-dos, they tell me you have no token. So I need the token to be passed for all of these requests. So let's get the token. I'm gonna sign in and retrieve my token. And I'm gonna add the token to all my requests. So here I'm going to say authorization, bearer, and then the value. Now, since I added bearer, space, and the value, it's kind of like standard how JSON token are sent. Then we need to modify our middleware to read this not as a value, to read this as a value after the space that comes after bearer. So the easiest way to do that, I'm gonna go back to my middleware and update my middleware and say const token is equal header dot split by space, and then choose the second part. So I get rid of bearer and I access the string of the token. And the rest of the code should be the same. Now let me test. Route not found. I guess we did something. So this is post to to-dos. Let me check if the route exists. To-dos, check token worked, but to-dos router didn't find anything. So I didn't hook any of my controllers, that's why. So let's complete that part. So add to-do, get to-dos, get to-do by ID, update to-do by ID, and delete to-do by ID. All right, let's test again. This guide.js still have an issue. Can't find module to-dos controller. Imported into those model. The problem is this import basically was not found. Control space to those controller.js. Yeah, I'm still having the same issue. Can't find module to do's model. Oh, so the model has a problem here. Imported into those controller. Oh, I'm doing all of this in user model. Oh, this is user model. To-dos model. Okay, so I forget here .js. All right, my server is up and running. Let's test again. All right, sounds good. Like we did add the to-do, and as you can see, the user ID was not added for some reason. So this we have an issue we need to fix. All right, let's test again. So I'm adding a property called user ID, and the value would be rec.token._ID. So I believe that this value failed, and I don't have anything in the token. To verify, log rec.token. Am I parsing the token correctly, or do I have an issue with that? And as you can see, I am parsing the token correctly, and it does have, oh, so my token, as you can see, it's a gibberish. It has $sign is new, and then doc, and then the data that I have. And that often happens because Mongoose decide that I'm gonna send some extra information with this find. We can get rid of these by adding .lean at the end of the query. So I'm gonna fix that really quick. Now I know that everything is fine here, should be fine at some point. I'm going to go to it is not here. It's check token. Oh, I think my token has an issue. So the token that we generated is the problem. So I'm going back to the user controller. And this user basically is not a plain object. This user was pretty much a problem when I spread it, and it gives me all the extra properties. So I can get rid of the extra properties by simply adding .lean at the end. Okay, let me test that. I'm gonna log in again and get a new token. Obviously, this token is way smaller than the previous one. So we got rid of all the extra information. That's good. I'm gonna replace this gigantic token with the smaller token. Try again. Now I did read the user ID from the token correctly, and I added the rest of the properties as we required. Now when I get all the to-dos, oops. Oh, I didn't have authorization. I cannot perform any of the queries without authorization header to verify who am I. Right, get all to-dos. Sounds like good. And the C, I got only 1 because this is the one that belongs to me. The previous one did not have user ID, so it wasn't retrieved. Now, if I get the to-do ID and try, can I get 1 only? Yes, I get 1 only. Let's update the to-do. Finally delete it. So in order to update the to-do, walk over TO2 4 times a day. And I'm going to set completed to true. We acknowledge that. So I can check at this property at some point at the front end and make sure that it was updated. For me, I'm just going to get it again and see that the title is updated, the description is updated to 4 times, and completed is set to true. User ID is still the same. All the other properties are good. Now let me delete this one. Deleted count 1. I can check that later. What are my to-dos? You have nothing. That sounds good. I think that summarized everything we will need to move on later to the front end. Any questions about the back end? It's very plain, easy app. We can move on to the front end app. But before we do that, let's take a 10-minute break, stretch, drink some water, and then we can work on the front end. So online timer. Hello, everyone. Okay. You ready? Let's work
Yes,
on the
Professor.
front end app. Thank you. I will build the program piece by piece. I have here terminal, and obviously I need to create some components, some services, and other things. I will work first on state management and finishing the sign up and sign in components. Once I finish that, I'm going to add all the to-dos logic, but as a separate module. I don't want to have all my application logic in a single module. I will show you why, and then I'm going to explain to you the different types of modules and when do we use which. So there will be some little new information for you today. Let's start with what we already know. ng generate component, and I'm going to create I don't know, do I need a home component? I don't think so, because if I don't have a state, I should immediately redirect to possibly sign in. And maybe by default, when I visit the application, I also go to sign in. That would make sense. And if I am inside sign in and I do have a state, then I could redirect immediately to the to-dos. That would also make sense. So I'm gonna skip creating a home component. I'm gonna create sign in, minus flat. I just need two components, so I'm not gonna create a folder for these. And I'm gonna need sign up. In order to save the state, I'm going to have a state service, and you generate service. I'm gonna call state. And in order as well to communicate with the backend for the user, I'm going to create another service, which I'm going to call user service. So I can log in for the user and sign up for the user. That sounds like enough for now. That should help me get going. We start with app module. In here, I'm going to need the HTTP client module. I'm going to need HTTP, not HTTP, the router module. And I'll definitely need the reactive forms module because I need to build some forms. So router module was important, reactive was important. As usual, this guy is very stubborn and doesn't need to be imported. I'm gonna help my IDE. Time to define our routes. So dot for route. And let's define some routes. So here, if the path is nothing and patched match is full, then redirect to login. Or I'm gonna call it sign in because that's a convention that we're using. And if I am in sign in, I'm gonna render the component sign in. And if I am in sign up, I'm gonna render the sign up component. And good to have a fallback. If the path is stars, then redirect to the route, which is going to redirect for sign in. So let's go to sign in. All right, now I put this. The second step to implement the router is to add an outlet in my application. For now, I'm just gonna render a button that's going to sign in, button to sign out, probably have a message, paragraph, welcome, and then I get username here. And I will also render an outlet. That's enough for now. So I kind of have a header that has a welcome message and two buttons to sign in and sign out, and an outlet. Now, if I test, I should see all of these components. So here I need to go up and then go to the front end, engine ngserve -o, and I'm going to keep my browser next to me so we can test in real time. Good, I did see everything, so we are in good shape so far. What's that in the background? Okay. Now to start working on any functionality, I need to finish up the services. The state service, yes. I need to work out on the state service and the user service. So let's start with the state and user. The user is going to be very straightforward. I'm going to start with it because I need an HTTP service. I'm going to inject the HTTP client. And then I'm going to create a method called sign in and sign up. Both of them, they will send the post request with the data. Which reminds me that I need to probably create some interfaces for this data. So I'm going to create one here. Ideally, you create these like in separate files, but since it's just small code base, I'm going to create them here. So export interface user. The user has underscore ID, full name, and email. And we'll have also password. I don't care about the password. Oh, when we sign up, we need the password. I do care about the password. I was like, we're never going to deal with the password. Okay. So when I sign in, basically, I'm going to get something user. And when I sign up, I'm going to receive also user. Okay. So when I post, that reminds me that I need to add the path for my HTTP server, and I need multiple services here. So the best way to do that is not actually a tokenized string. The best way to do that is by using an environment variable in Angular. So let's see how we can do that. Angular environment variables setup. So the first step is we need to generate the environment files. So I'm going to copy these and run this command in my terminal. Now two environment variables were created. one that I use for development, and automatically it will be replaced when when the environment become production.
I have
And you
camera
can
on.
see,
I have
yes,
camera on. Sorry, Professor.
okay. And let's see this change reflected in angular.json as well, so we understand what happened. So as we see, we have two files created, this guy and this guy. Both of them are empty objects. So we are free to add any environment variables in here. And we see that AngularJSON was updated with the following. It says, at the time we build, we check the environment. If the environment was development, then we replace environment with environment development. Otherwise, we keep it as environment. So the import for the environment variable automatically replaced based on whether we are serving with ng-serve or when we ng-build for production. That's pretty handy. Nice, let's add our environment variable. So we have here HTTP server, and the server would be HTTP localhost 3000. For me now, the server would be the same for production and development, but once you host your application, probably you need to change the production one. So that's pretty much it. I'm gonna have it the same here. Okay. So let's use this environment variable. So I'm gonna say HTTP environment. Sounds good. Yeah, I want this environment, which is going to be replaced. Dot HTTP server. Good. Plus. I don't think it's a default import. It is it? Expression expected. Okay. So slash, and I need data as well. So here we need users slash sign in. Okay. That sounds like a good post request, and the sign up request is the same, but sign up, and we pass the user here. So inside the user service, I created two methods for post request sign in, sign up, and I define my interface here. Let's work on the state service now to how to save up some sort of state and provide some tools to change the state as well. In my state service, I'm going to create a state. So private, of course, I can make it public and use it directly. I just like this pattern for fun. So private state, I can like create it as underscore state so nobody can access this guy. Equal new behavior subject. I'm going to state the type here shortly, and I'm going to give it the new default value. So what do we need to save in a state? I need the user information probably, and the token should be persisted here. So I can access it at any time. So let's define the interface for the type of state. Export interface iState. And here I'm going to save the underscore ID. I'm going to save all the plain data that I'm interested in, like the user full name. I don't know if I need the email to be persisted in the state. Maybe it's handy. I certainly don't need the password to be persisted here. I need maybe the JSON Web Token saved here as string, so I can have access to it. That sounds like a good start. Let's define some default value for the state, so I can use it. By default, I don't have ID. My name is guest. I don't have an email, and I don't have a JSON Web Token. So here I can pass an I state, and the value is the initial state. Now that I have my state as a private member, I need to expose some public members to read the state as an observable and to change the state. So get state and set states. Similar patterns to kind of React or. So here I'm going to return an observable. So I can subscribe to it. And when I set the state, I'm going to receive the new state. And I'm going to change it. So this dot next is going to change the state and inform all the subscribers. After I've done that, let's for fun return the state. If we have any issues, we'll revisit. Both services are provided at root, so I just need to ask for them and use them wherever I am in the application. That's handy. Now I can go back to my.
Professor, can you explain line 15?
Yes. Line 15 in the state service, or
Yeah. Yes. The dot next method.
yeah, the next methods, when you call next on any observable value, you set the new value plus you inform all subscribers. So you can't set the value of an observable by saying this dot state equal or dot value equal something. If you do that, none of the subscribers will be notified. So similar to what we used when we used output, if you remember, not output, the event emitter in outputs, how do you send a value inside a stream? You can't just assign the value to the stream. You just emit the value. And next here is just like emit. Emit is going to push the value inside the stream and inform all the subscribers that the value has changed. That's what next is for.
Okay,
Is it
makes
clear?
sense. Yes. Thank you.
Any other questions? Dave? Let's work now on our possibly template, finish up these two buttons, and then we can work on the sign-in logic. I'm going to change here. I need to subscribe to the state. So state, from type high state. I don't know what value I have, so I'm going to not assign a value in the constructor. I'm going to subscribe. So this dot subscription. Equal. I need the state service. So let's inject the state service. State service. So probably subscription needs to remain private. State service need to remain private. I don't intend to use them in the template. I just need the state as public. So this dot subscription equal State service is inject state service. Okay. Now subscription is this dot state service dot get state dot subscribe, and then I'm gonna receive the state here, and I'm gonna assign it to my local variable state. At the same time, I'm subscribing to any changes. Anytime it changes, so this dot state equal states. That sounds good. Let's control this button based on the state. So I'm gonna say ngIf. I can say state.id. If I have an ID, then if I don't have an ID, then show sign in. I can save some logic here and say an else statement, show sign out. I can put this button inside the template, which I'm going to name as sign out. This way I don't need to add two ngIf statements. One is enough. So ngIf, this guy, else, I don't need here the $sign, else sign out. Good. So I see the sign in only left, and I'm not seeing the sign out. That's a good sign. So at this point, we should probably okay. Let's implement the sign in button. Basically, it's going to route me to sign in, and sign out is going to clear the state. I think that's a logic that we could implement here. So when I click on sign in, we can say go to sign in, something like that. And if I click sign out, we should probably call a method to clear the state. Let's implement this too. Go to sign in and sign out. Okay. Go to sign in, I need the router to go to sign in. So let me import the router. And I'm just gonna say this dot router dot navigate, and the path would be slash and then sign in. So when I press this, I go to sign in if I'm not already there. And when I sign out, I should probably navigate back to sign in at some point. And also I need to clear the state. So I do have here the state instance dot set state. I just change the value to the initial state. Now, so far my state is not persisted in local storage, by the way. So we can work on that a little bit later. So when I sign out, I set the state to initial state and navigate back to sign in. Sounds like a good start for now. Later we can persist the state in the local storage. Now I can work on my sign in logic. Oops, we forget to sign up. Didn't we forget to sign up? How did we forget that? Oh, we didn't. I did create a component called sign up. I see that. Wow, memory issues. I do have sign up and I have a route for sign up. Okay, good. That's really good. So, oh, I create a sign up here. You know that I totally forget about this. So if I'm out, I should probably display two buttons, one to sign in and one to sign up. And both of them, they will just redirect me to the right components. Up and up. Now I'm just hating the having this ngIf twice, so I should probably switch the logic. So I display guest, I'm gonna keep it guest. Show sign buttons. So I put in the template this guy and this guy. I can remove this condition and add it to this button. Good. So I have two buttons, very innocent buttons. So I have a single button that says sign out. And that's only if I do have an ID. Otherwise, show the sign in buttons. I think I can fit them in one line. Yeah. Now let me add the username, by the way, here. So this is state.fullname. So welcome guest, I see the buttons, sign in, sign up. Both of them are working. Decent job. Let's work on the sign up logic and then the sign in logic. Both of them quite similar and should be easy. Let's go to the sign up first. I need to create a form. Put placeholder. So I need the email first. I need the full name. And I need the password. Okay. I need a button. And type submit to save. Okay. Call the sign up. It's fine. Okay, let me create a form here from the form builder service. Non-nullable. Come on, inject. Dot group. The group will have 3 properties, and all of them would be probably required. So I need email. I'm just gonna have them as required. Validators, dot required. Command 1, 2, 3. Then I need full name and password. All right. This way I can disable this button if one of them is still empty. So if the form dot valid is not. Okay, let's connect these two parts together. So I'm going to add form control name to the first one. It's going to be email. Let me do two-way data binding for the rest. I need to see and the passwords. Good. Let's connect the form. So form group, and the form group will be evaluated to this variable that I call form. Now I connected them, the button is disabled. I could probably proceed and find an event when I submit to login. When I log in, I should probably first call the service to send this data to the backend. Yes, let's inject the service, private. I need to use the data service, the user service, sorry. Equal inject, oops, inject, come on, data, user service. And since sign up is not going to change anything in the state, I probably don't need the state service here. I'm mixing up stuff. So this is sign up and not login. So my name should be correct. Sign up new user. Okay. So when I sign up, probably a good thing to do is to start with sending the request to the backend server. So this.user service.sign up, and I'm going to pass the this.form.value. And since I do have the type mismatch, because not all the properties exist, I could cast this to iUser. Now, in order to trigger the request, I add .subscribe. So let me here type my both requests. I'm going to always get success true and data of any. It's important that I check what is the data type and also type this one correctly. So maybe we could do that really quick. So the backend test users. So when I sign up, in data, I get the full object, which is nice. And when I sign in, if you remember, I get also data as a token. That's nice. So let's type this properly, I would say. Close the back end, go back to the front end. So here, I'm gonna get basically, when I sign up, I'm gonna get iUser back. And when I sign in, I'm gonna get a string, which represents the token. Now I type them correctly. I go back to my component. And when I accept the response, I know exactly the type of the response coming as success true data iUser. So I can say if success else, you could probably display some sort of an error or redirect to some friendly place. So if response success, now we should probably redirect to sign in after you sign up. I'm going to inject the router service. And say this.router.navigate, go to login. Oops. Okay. How about we display some notifications to the user to show that things are going fine? Maybe we didn't learn that, but feel free to explore some packages. So I guess there is something called Toaster for Angular that helps you display some like nice toasters. Yeah, like that. So if you want, I will show you the demo. When I call a service, we display this guy, which is going to inform me that something has happened. I think it's a good feedback to send. So how we use this guy, we just install this guy first. So I'm gonna install this inside my application. Next, I'm going to make sure that Angular Animations is downloaded. Let me check. Package JSON. Angular Animation, it is downloaded already in my application. I don't need it. And the next thing is to add some CSS to our application. So copy toast CSS. If you're using Saad, I'm not using Saad. So I just need to copy toast CSS to my project. Okay. Copy raw file. That would do it. I can add that to my styles. Okay, sounds good. What else? If you are using Angular CLI, you can add it. Oh, I am using Angular CLI. Okay, I don't need this anymore. So style CSS could remain empty. So the third option is just to add my toaster CSS to my Angular JSON, which is better. So the compiler will pick it up automatically. Angular JSON. And here's my CSS. I'm going to add this guy too. If you're using Angular before 6, no, I'm not using an old Angular. This is the latest one. Remove the comment. We cannot add comment inside JSON. All right, so I added the styles that are requested for the package. Now, in order to use the package, first we need to import the package inside the imports of ng module. I'm going to copy this. Go to my Angular module. ng module. And I'm going to import this guy. So I added toaster module to the imports of ng module. Next, they tell you to use it and just have a service called toaster service. Okay. So far, everything looks good. Let's try to use it. So inside sign up component, I'm just going to do a test ng on init and call this service somehow. Let me inject the service. So notification, I'm going to call it notification, which is an instance of toaster service import. Now I'm going to just try to send a notification here and say success. Hello, test. When I save, yeah, I'm going to restart my compiler because I added something to Angular JSON. So probably they were not picked up. Right, I'm serving again. And sign in, sign up. Nope, did not work. Let's see if I have any problem. Expect. So yes, I do have problem. That's good. Unexpected synthetic property fly in out found. Please make sure that either browser animation module or NUP module are imported. Oh, so I need this module to be imported. I missed that when reading the documentation. My bad. So sorry. Browser, what am I? Browser animation module. Okay, I think the best way is to go back to the docs.
Professor,
Because, yes.
I think you should import it from Angular platform / platform browser animation also.
Yeah. So that's what I'm trying to do. It's Angular animations. That's it. Oh, here they added here, and here it is where it should be imported from. I missed that part. I just imported this guy. So I think I added this line. Now it's time to import the other one. So browser animation module, and here is the suggested import. Ah, I see something coming. Too big. Okay, not bad. Reset. Hello, test. Sounds like decent, not bad. Okay, at least we can show some notification and not be too super bland. We will have a little bit time after lunch, so I was gonna also add the UI library to this project and make it look a little bit better. You'll see how easy it is to integrate any UI kit with Angular. So let me zoom in a bit. Okay, so we were working on the sign up component. And I was like, hey, how about after we get success, we display some message saying successfully signed up, like that. And then we redirect to sign in. Okay, let's try to sign up. So email is asaad@miu.edu. Full name is Saad. Password is 123456. Sign up button worked. I clicked, nothing happened. My backend received an error because I see, so see here, my backend receives option, but it didn't receive the real request, which means that my backend refused to serve this. And if we go to the console, we see that we have a CORS problem because I did not add CORS to my backend. So probably it's time to add this to my backend. npm install CORS. And now I'm going to add CORS middleware to my application in the backend. And the middleware can go basically as the first one, app.use CORS, open it for all requests. Now, if I send this sign up request, I was greeted with all is good. So I received success from the backend server, and I was redirected back to sign in component, which is good. Now let's finish up the sign in component, set the state, and possibly break for lunch. So let's work on sign in now. If you want to see if anything was successfully saved, we can test that. So do we have to do app here? We have to do app. Nice. Here's my both. To do's is still empty. Oh, I have to do's. Oh, I added this to do's later from the test. The users, I do have 3 users for some reason. So maybe we should have set the email to be unique and not accept adding multiple users. Probably that's a change that should be added to our code, so we don't have such a case. So users model, the email supposed to read from type string, but unique is true. So if there was any duplication in the email, the entry will be refused. Okay. For now, I'm going to delete the first and the second. Keep the last one because the last one was generated by Angular. Okay, sounds good. Let's work on the sign in. Okay, completely similar logic. So sign up. I need the user service. I need the router. I need a toaster service. I need all of 3. I need a form that has the email and password. I don't need to require the full name. So here is a form that has email and password. I need to create a form in the template. So I'm going to copy this form and put it here. I'm going to remove the full name, login, and the button is going to say login. And the method that I'm going to implement is called, all right, I think we're going to call it sign in. Very inconsistent. Okay, let's create sign in, which is going to be very similar to sign up, except state management. So this is sign in. Okay, let's import the stuff. Here is inject. Here's the user service. Here's the router. Here is the toaster service, form builder, and validators. I think all is good except for the what do we do when we log in. When we log in, we're going to use our service to use the sign in method and pass the data as iUser, but that's not good. No, it is good. So we validate what the data and we pass it to sign in. Sign in is going to send it to the backend. I receive a response. I know the response will have success and it has something called token. So let's display first a notification that successfully logged in. That's first. And later we want to navigate to some to-dos, show the to-dos list after you sign in, right? That we're going to implement it later. And my concern here is to save the state. So all I need is to use the state service now to persist the state. State service, state service. All right. So this dot state service dot set state. Now the state, as you can see, it accepts state objects. And the state object will have an underscore ID. It has full name. It has email and it has JWT, I guess. Yeah, JWT. So we need to set all 4 properties. Now, when I sign in, the response dot data is basically going to be the token. So this is going to be encrypted token. I'm going to receive it in the response.data. Next, I need to decrypt this token so I can read the content of the token. Okay. Let's use a library called JWT decode. So this library is going to decode any token and give you the plain one. Sounds easy to use. This is backend. This is front end. Install JWT decode. And yeah, basically it's just a few lines of code. All right. So here we need to import this guy. And then it says pass the encrypted token to this method and you can get the decoded version. Sounds super easy. So decoded token sits in here. Now I probably can proceed to set my state. When I set the state, I'm going to pass ID, full name, email, which is basically all of them exist inside decoded token. Decoded token. Now the type is probably not correct. So how about as a user? Now JWT need to be set, which is the encrypted token. Now I'm good to proceed and sign in. Just not to repeat this process 100 times, I'm gonna set my email and passwords in the form. So when I sign in, successfully signed in, and I see the button sign out immediately appeared and my name appeared in the root component. When I sign out, sign up and sign in buttons exist again, and I am signed out. Welcome guests. Sign in, I am signed in. So the logic for state management and signing and stuff is okay. The problem is, as we mentioned a few days ago, that if I refresh, I lose my state because I reboot the entire application. A solution is after I sign in, save it in the storage. And when the application starts, I retrieve it from the storage. So to do that is when I sign in. Yeah. Yes.
About the line number 38. So
Yes.
So decoding the encrypted token, it doesn't require the like private secret or something, so which we did in a backend.
Because because it's only going to read the body. It's not going to check any signature. It's going to ignore all of this stuff. As a client, you just need to read the content of the token. The token has 3 parts: header, body, and signature. The server, when it receives the token, it verifies the signature.
Yes, the verifying
anybody,
needs private key, right?
But to read the data, you just decrypt it based on the algorithm it was encrypted with, and you read the data. But you cannot do anything with the signature. It's signed with a private key, and only the private key can verify the signature. but the body is just encrypted and can easily be decrypted from any library. I think it's base 64 anyway. So base 64 is just easy to decrypt and read the data.
I got it. Thank you.
Sure. Right, let's persist the state. So that's what I want to persist. So here I'm going to create here const state equal like a local variable. And then I'm going to save it in the local storage. So local storage dot set item app state JSON dot stringify my state. I do have something. I'm going to delete my state completely. Let's check. Sign in. Yes, I get the details and I have my token also persisted here. So that's good. But still, when I refresh, my application still lost the state. So the next step is when I boot the app, I read this object and place it back in memory. I'm going to do that the correct way. You can do that in app component anywhere, but I'm going to do it the correct way within app modules. So I'm going to create here a function. I'm going to call it bootstrap. And within this function, I'm going to basically ask Angular to call it when the application starts. So I'm going to say provide app initializer, use factory, my function bootstrap. Thank you, Angular. Now, since this is a factory, so I'm going to return another function. Because it's a factory. The goal of it, I can inject some services. And yes, when I bootstrap, do I need any services? I don't think so. When I bootstrap, all I need to do is just to read the local storage and yes, set the state. So I need one service here. So if you need the service, you should ask Angular to prepare the service instance. So I say, I need the state service. So Angular will hand you the state service here. And now I can use it. So let's read the local storage first. So I say const persisted state equal local storage dot get item app state. If I have any persisted state, I'm gonna continue. Otherwise, I'm gonna do nothing. If I have one, I'm gonna set my state correctly. So this dot state service, it's not this, this is a function. So state service dot set state, and I'm gonna pass the new state, what I read from the local storage. So JSON dot parse, and I pass the persisted state. And that should be enough to refresh. So I'm gonna refresh now. That did not work. I have some issues. So I call this one app state. App underscore state, yes. And this is get item app underscore state. Sounds good. Let's make sure that I'm reading this correctly. So nothing is printed out. So basically my bootstrap is not called. App initializer, use factory and provide this dependency state service. initialize app is called, so Bootstrap is being processed, and I am returning another function, and this function is basically reading app states. And when I say print out persisted state, I'm receiving, okay, so the return is not working here. Missing here. My provider is perfectly fine, but I guess this something in this guy is working.
Professor, can I check whether in the browser there is any key of app state?
Yes, the browser does have an app state that I already logged in. Yes. But this line is not triggering, so I wonder if I needed here try catch, something is happening. So initialize app is printing once and not twice. So this function is completely not doing anything for my case. Let me check the syntax if I'm missing anything. Probably it's a bad idea to check the slides. You should always rely on the documentation. I don't think it's in this lecture. Can I check the documentation? Actually, when you like look for help in the official documentation, so you don't get any weird stuff. This is an asynchronous one. I'm not interested. It is also an asynchronous one. So I have initializer, use factory.
Professor, you missed the multi-truth.
I must multi-through. I'm looking at this and found. So I initialize the app. This one is going to be one of multiple other stuff to be triggered. Okay. Now I see that everything is out and I am signed in, even though I refresh the app. Good. Let me remove this console log. Let me remove initialize app. Okay, everything is clean. Now the final step of signing in basically is to redirect to a module or a component that will show me my personalized to-do items. So we will continue working on that module and understand what type of modules that we can use and reuse in Angular after we go to lunch and come back from lunch. I mean, the logic for making CRUD operations for any entity should be straightforward and easy. So we finished kind of like the most important part of the setup of the application, and you do that only once. Later, when you try to create featured modules based on what kind of application that you're building, these should be just straightforward and forms and listing and stuff like that. So we will work on that part after the break. Any questions?